Játék Steve Pelletier, Unishay, Mai Deshkizny initially, Billy Ganabash's Chin, Keen Lachini Dasha Che, Billy Ganadashanella. Welcome back to Res Ball, where Andy and I finally get to sit down and record and talk about the Pistons playoffs. Although, oh boy, it started off badly. Let's get started right about now. Andy, let everybody know where they can find you online before we get started here.
You can find me on Twitter at D_D_Pistons_fan.
We are recording on April 21st, 2026, in between game one and game two of the Pistons 2026 playoff series against the Orlando Magic. Game one, of course, did not go how we all wanted to, myself included, even though I was like, I don't know about this series. I don't think anybody expected them to drop game one. The only high seed, I think, that ended up losing game one, if I remember correctly, right?
Yes, they were the only number one. Yeah, you got it.
And right now, feelings are kind of all over the place. What is your feeling, first and foremost, Andy, to the Pistons losing game one to the Orlando Magic?
I mean, I'm not shocked, but mainly because Orlando almost didn't get in. Like they've been playing like with their basketball life on the line for several games. So they're locked in and they're focused. And the Pistons haven't been playing like basketball games matter for a while. Now, should that be the deciding factor on you coming out for game one and not playing good? No. And the Pistons hang their head on defense, and Orlando scored, I think, way too many points in the first quarter. And I mean, that's already a red flag right there. But then looking at the rest of the game and not to be shocked, JB's rotations and things, that doesn't help. And I know some people are like, well, you can't say they lost because of his rotations and this and that because they're like they came out flat and they wouldn't beat anybody. Listen, name another coach that in the playoffs plays a giant rotation and doesn't shorten it. Every every basketball team plays their 8 and 9 best players as many minutes as they possibly can, and a really good coach might throw in a different player just because of a specific matchup or thing that they see or a hunch. And you know what? Sometimes it hits and the guy looks great. Sometimes it doesn't. Nobody remembers it. But that's pretty much all you get in terms of wrinkles. But to play 11 different guys in game one just shows you he's going to do what he's done for the entire season, which didn't make sense when he did during the season. It definitely doesn't make sense in the playoffs.
What do you mean, Andy? He made adjustments. Asar only played 9 minutes. That's different, right? 9 minutes in the second half.
Well, actually, that's kind of consistent for him as far as not having Asar play games. I mean, I think he played 25 or 26 minutes, which is his regular season average, which we all thought was absurd. And if you would have told me in the playoffs he'd still be getting that many minutes, that's ridiculous. There's no way
Yeah.
that can happen.
I'm glad you said that because I think nationally people don't understand that, there are Pistons fan here and there who've been saying this for a while, like why Asar isn't getting 30 or more minutes a game is ridiculous. The fact he's even a candidate for Defensive Player of the Year is a miracle. Do you know how many games, what the qualifying stats are to qualify for awards like that, Andy?
You mean besides was it 65 games?
65 games is the minimum. You also have to do a certain something in 65 games. Do you know what that is?
Is it the minutes?
What minutes do you have to get?
Um, do you have to average like over like I think you have there's like a minutes threshold you have to hit for each of the games that you're in to make
So
you to qualify.
you have to appear in at least 65 games, and you have to play 20 minutes or more in at least 65 games. Do you know how many games this past season Asar played 20 minutes or more?
How many?
64. But why does he qualify for Defensive Player of the Year? Again, I had to go down this rabbit hole, so hopefully you all understand this now and understand why it's frustrating. Which I'll come back to here in a minute. So you would think like, oh, Asar didn't make it to 65. Why is he still qualifying for the awards? The 65 game rule has a freebie clause in it that gives you two games, a 2 game leeway. So technically it's like 63 games. So if you hit in 63, 20 minutes or more in 63 games, as long as you still appear in 65 or more, they give you a pass. I guess for like working back into injury or something. I don't know. The 65 game rule is absolutely stupid anyway. I mean, I'm glad that Cade and Luca both got that repealed because it just comes again, it's such a it's the NBA makes issues out of non-issues like tanking 65 games and stuff ridiculous. But this should have never even been a thing, right? And it wasn't until I forget the commenter, I apologize, on Ross's video, who pointed out to me of like, oof, about a month ago, right? Asar might not even qualify because JB hasn't played him enough 20 minutes games. That's bad coaching. Like that should not even be a remote possibility on a guy that won the steals title. Didn't he win the steals title too?
He won the steals
He
title,
could be
and
doing more. He could be having more statistical production. It's the bonkers thing in this, which again just speaks to how great Asar is and why you continue to put this minutes cap on him is one of the biggest things that's coming to the forefront right now, and the maybe the biggest reason why the Pistons lost game one.
yes, and if you look at the minutes for him and the minutes for Stu, and for anyone who wants to talk about their offensive limitations, because I do believe Stu has offensive limitations, in the end, you just have to look at the net. Is the team better off when they're on the court because of their defense?
You mean net rating, not the actual basketball
Y-
net.
Yes, thank you. The net rating. You just have to look at it and it's like, oh, no, the team has a better net rating when they're on the floor. It's like, yeah, that's how we win so many games. But then you look at the minutes that the coach plays them and it's like, uh, it's just very confusing. But we could talk about that for a while.
So you're disappointed in game one, but are you worried?
I'm not worried. And the reason why I'm not worried, and maybe I should be, but I'm not, is because over the course of the season, the Pistons have shown us who they are. And are they going to have games like this last game that they lost that they don't look very good? Yes. But the majority of the time, they're going to play good enough defense to win the games. Do I believe the Orlando Magic will look as good as they did in game one for the rest of the games this series? I do not. And could they prove me wrong and do it? Sure. Do I think they will? I don't.
I mean, I disagree. I think they should be worried, but I will concede. I don't know if they should be necessarily worried against the Magic, just because like hitting a bunch of threes and Jalen Suggs fouling out and that not end up being like a big determining factor who wins and stuff like that. That those seem kind of fluky, right? Um, But on the flip side of thing, number one, the Magic are a rat in a corner that the only way they can live is by chewing their way out. Jamal Mosley, Paolo Banchero, with all that's going on, like they're a cornered wild animal, man. And you never know what they're capable of. And they've been on this roll after they lost to the Sixers. It's like, yeah, I could see that fortune favors the bold, and they're definitely very bold right now. And they seem like the team that they're like, we don't care. We're just gonna swing for the fences and know what we're doing too. Whereas, I mean, that's the big thing too, coming out so flat on offense and defense in that first quarter, not a good sign. I'm of the mindset in professional athletics that when you give somebody more time to rest and they come out and look less prepared, it's not a good sign. Probably they didn't take things seriously enough. Again, you can believe that in whatever, you can call me an idiot. That's totally fine. I think it's kind of like unfounded in terms of specific points, right? But I do think why they should be worried is number one, we just brought up all the JB stuff. 4 shot attempts for your second leading scorer is inexcusable from a coaching standpoint. You're telling me you can't draw up like 6 more plays to try and get Jalen Duren involved, or you, the Mike Brown philosophy is, hey, buddy, why I say the Mike Brown philosophy. This was his biggest criticism when he coached the Cavs when LeBron first got there was he didn't run offense for LeBron. The thought process being like when you have a player that good and great, you can't micromanage them. But when it came down to like, hey, we need a play drawn up for somebody else, that's what have the Cavs kept coming short with is Mike Brown being like, all right, LeBron, you go figure it out, man. And like you're telling me, as the reigning coach of the year, you can only get your second leading scorer 4 shot attempts. Any other team, again, please, Pistons fans, if you're mad at this, remove your Pistons rose-colored glasses and think about it for any other team. Think about it for any other number one seed also. You're telling me that your second leading scorer can only get 4 shot attempts in a game in the playoffs. Inexcusable. Number two, for me, I'm like, I think the way JB has handled Kevin Herter should get him fired. Like that should be a fireable offense. The whole, we need more offense kind of thing. What offense? What offense with Herter? This guy has only been here since the trade deadline, number one. And you played him, I want to say it was 19 minutes, 18 minutes in game one, and you played Javante Green 5 minutes. Like, can Javante Green play Herter's same exact spot? Yeah, of course he can. He plays the two guard. He can play the three. He's played all the way up to the power forward position. And he's been here all season. And who's shooting better from three, which is the main skill you want from the guy you're playing in that spot. And theoretically, what Herter is supposed to be doing. Who's shooting better from three, Herter or Javante?
Oh, Javante, easy. Herter has not shot well from three. Now,
I cannot tell you how many comments I've had in the last month who are like, "Oh, Kevin Herter, he's starting to turn it around." I'm like, really? First, look at Javante Green, 38.1% from three on 3 attempts per game. Let me give you that in terms of like per 36. So if Javante was playing like a starter's amount of minutes, then Javante would be putting up 6.1 3-point attempts per game. Think about it in those terms. What's Herter shooting from three? What did he shoot from three for the season? He took 102 threes. So to me, 100 threes is like the bare minimum sample size for me to say like this is if you're doing good or not as a shooter.
with the Pistons or for the entire
Just with
season?
the Pistons, he took 102 threes. What do you think
Just the
Herter shot
Pistons?
on those 102 threes that
I
made
think with
JB Bickerstaff think, oh, we need this guy, and he's exactly what we're missing.
I think with the Pistons, he shot less than he did for the season. It was like 29%, I think.
29.4%. If you're still here defending Kevin Herter and he can't reach 30% from three on 100 threes, then go find another team because you, my friend, are delusional and have no eyeballs or ears to see what's actually happening or hear what the announcers are telling you. Again, inexcusable why JB is like, we got to rely on this guy. This guy is not reliable for what you need. Whereas the guy that shot 38.1% from free for the entire year, who can play anywhere from the two guard to four, you're treating like a jabron. And might not even play him, like you said, short in lineup. Javante was what, like the 10th or 11th man, which normally is not a thing in the playoffs. So who knows if he even goes back to Javante at all.
So here's going to be my counter argument for you. That's kind of not really a counter argument because basically, I think Herter took Levert's minutes. And I think Herter honestly does what Levert does, and possibly maybe better, more efficiently. Not the
He's the
three-point shooting,
offense, doesn't
but
space the floor. Is a liability on defense.
so in that aspect, I can understand JB going with Herter over Levert. However, if you're putting someone in because Duncan Robinson is in foul trouble, Herter is not the answer because all you're looking for is for someone to shoot the three. And I would say you're going to have a much better result playing Javante Green. Give him those minutes. He's the guy who, in my opinion, has earned it. And if you have Cade on the floor for all the ball handling, that's who you should go with. And I think he's been going like JB's been using Dennis Jenkins in that role, which I don't like, especially with the size of Orlando. I don't like him playing in that role. And with Cade playing so many minutes in the playoffs, Dennis Jenkins should get a smaller role, and it's not a knock against him, but his role is the backup ball handler. So again, it comes back to us feeling like we don't think JB understands the role of the people he has on the court because when he takes Asar Thompson off the court, who is our primary defender? Now you're saying it's going to be Kevin Herter? Like, no, that's not a good choice.
Yeah, who was the first sub in that game one against the Magic? Who was the first guy JB subbed in? You're muted.
Kevin Herter.
Not Isaiah Stewart, elite rim protector. Not Dennis Jenkins, or maybe the best backup point guard in the NBA. Also, a guy who shot, I want to say he shot what, 37% from three, something like that on the
Yeah.
season. Can play off of Cade. Also, yeah, 37.4% from three on 195 threes. Not Javonte Green, again, who's been super reliable, got better as a three-point shooter as the season wore on, can play multiple positions. No, you went to the guy that got here at the trade deadline. And of course, Paul Reed is a distant memory at this point. I apologize on behalf of basketball gods everywhere, Paul Reed. I don't know why you're not seeing minutes in this series in particular against a team that's big, against a team that's not a great three-point shooting team either. Um, Bizarre with the lineups in game one. And then we brought it up, not playing your defensive player of the year candidate more than 10 minutes and a half. I'm sure Chet and Wembanyama have those problems too, right? The other guys that are up for defensive player of the year. Those teams are like, I don't know about their offense. Let's pull them out of this game. Let's not play them 30 minutes per game. Ridiculous. Um, Jalen Durham with the four shot attempts. Everything that was a big issue that made the Pistons lose game one is a direct result of JB Bickerstaff. I mean, that's just the number one thing that should have people worried. That's why I say I might not be worried for Orlando because Orlando could turn back into the pumpkin, and still have struggled with the things they normally struggled with. But the Pistons should be worried because what JB showed in number one is just like bizarre. It's illogical, and it throws a lot of the guys under the bus who could A, either help with the spacing like Dennis, like Javante, or B, places this dude who got here at the trade deadline who doesn't do any of the things that you need, and then extending the lineup. It's just so many bizarre things that JB's not so far beating the rap that he didn't have adjustments, that he did weird things that caused Cleveland to, stall out in the playoffs. Unfortunately, after game one, again, I want to at least give that caveat to it. I'm saying I think it's worrisome. I don't think JB is going to magically wake up in the next series or even in this series. He'd be like, oh, I'm going to change this. It's not working. Like, we know who he is. I'm not very confident that he's going to be able to come up with some kind of counterpunch if the Magic keep playing this way, or whoever we face in round two does the same thing. And the Magic's game plan isn't exactly like, you know, kabuki or some kind of smoke and mirrors. They're cutting off the paint. They're telling every other Piston, we'll let K drop 39. We do not care about any of y'all. K dropped 39 and nobody could step up and play off of that. That's a big worry.
Do you think Tobias Harris will have a better game?
I should hope so. One of seven from three. I mean, if he hits even one more of those, it's something. I can't imagine he'll go that cold, right?
Yeah, I mean, I just don't think as many of the Pistons will play as bad as they did again for the Magic to have
If
that
JB
game.
plays them, you mean, and if he draws up shot attempts for them. So we didn't get to record before the playoffs started. So part of this is me wanting to do the prep work that I put into that. But I also think it is helpful to think of the series with the Magic and why it's not going to be an easy one. So first thing, I was looking at the records on the Pistons because I was like 60 wins, major accomplishment. We should obviously celebrate that. But when it came to the potential matchups before the playoffs started, and the plan was there, it was like we could face the Hornets, we could face the Heat, we could face the Sixers, or we could face the Magic. Who was ideal and who was the problem matchup? The questions I was looking for. Andy, there were only three teams in the NBA last season that the Pistons had a losing record against. Do you know who those three teams were?
This last season that they had a losing
Correct.
record against?
Yes, there were only three teams in the 2025-2026 NBA season that the Detroit Pistons had a losing record against. Who were they?
Oklahoma City Thunder.
Incorrect.
Oh, Spurs.
The Spurs were one.
Oh, Denver Nuggets.
Nope.
I don't know the other ones.
The Clippers. They didn't beat the Clippers once.
Oh,
They didn't beat the
the
Spurs
Clippers.
once. And the other team they were 1-2 against were the Heat. So the Heat was the matchup that we did not want. They came out flat against the Hornets, so maybe it would have been, but like with Bam and Duran matchup, not a good thing. And then just Spo being so much better than JB. Yeah, that's the matchup we didn't want. But there were seven teams in the NBA last season that the Pistons broke even against. So they didn't have a winning record against, but they won as many games as they lost against these seven teams. Who were those seven teams?
I don't know the seven teams, but I know Orlando was one of them. And because of Orlando's injuries, that's actually one that makes them a little bit scarier because I don't think we played them full strength. I'm not sure even ever.
Yeah, so the Pistons had a broke even, win-loss break even against the Jazz, the Suns, the Thunder, the Rockets, and then the bad news and why I say we should be worried is the last two teams are the Cavs and the Magic. This is a tough playoff road for the Pistons no matter what, because like you said, with the Magic, it was injury, but also like I thought, honestly, I was surprised at that because I was like, I thought they dunked on the Magic every time they played them, but no, they did not. They were up and down. It's part of the reason why shout out to Ross that the Rocks never stopped. He keeps saying that, this Magic team aren't afraid of them and they know what to do because they were like, okay, we're able to hang with them even without guys here and there. So yeah, and my argument before was like I don't want the Magic one either because I'm kind of like I have no idea how that series is going to turn out now. Then um, there's just so many variables, and I think that's what it's going to be like in the series. Is like one night one team comes out and shoots the lights out, and it's like all right, I guess I can't do anything. One night another team comes out and just like chokes out the other guys on defense, and it's like it doesn't matter. There's just so much variance with both of these teams, and the things that you and I said were going to be the Achilles heel of this team with lack of three-point shooting, the disparity between them getting to the free throw line and being able to knock it down. And get another big story in that game one where they just missed so many free throws, which is a thing they do all season anyway. Um, the Magic are a matchup problem. And then I think they're going to face Cleveland. They would face Cleveland in the next round, or is it New York? I can't remember.
I don't know. I'd have to look.
Yeah, I have to look it up again too. But if they have to face Cleveland and Orlando, oof, it's not good, especially with Cleveland since they changed up so much. And the other thing that I keep failing to mention too is the Pistons had a hard time, and Kate had a hard time against Jalen Tyson, who's become a pretty good Kate Cunningham defender. And then the Cavs also got a Keon Ellis. Like they can legitimately play 48 minutes of a guy just dedicated to Cade, who are both really good perimeter defenders. So Piston fans, you ought to be worried. It's not an easy road going forward. And again, JB is not helping with these decisions in game one. Something's got to change, man.
So, along that lines, in terms of being worried, did you think for almost any series that the Pistons played that they were going to be like win the series in a sweep or 4-1? Or do you think they were going to go into 6 games and possibly 7 games for almost any team they played?
I thought, honestly, my prediction for this series would have been a gentleman's sweep, where the Magic win one game and then the Pistons win four. Again, part of it is because I did a dive into 60 win teams. This team did reach 60 wins. Again, pop champagne, celebrate all you want. Absolutely, 60 wins is a major accomplishment. But I went back and looked at like their title chances. In the last 50 years, what is 60 games, historically meant for teams' title chances? When a team wins 60 games, how often does that team go on to win the title? In the last 50 years, And there has been 69 LOL total teams in the NBA and well, technically the last year in 50, so 75, 76, it was still the ABA and the NBA. So in NBA and ABA history, I have to put that caveat on it. In the last 50 years, there have been 69 total teams that won 60 games or more. And 24 of those games, or 24 of those teams, excuse me, of the 69 total in the last 50 years has won the title. That translates to a 34.9% chance of a team being able to win the title, which is very, very good. Ask any gambler out there, anything over 30% chance, like it's a good bet normally. But obviously, a lot has changed in the last 50 years. And I can tell you the parts of the sample that really kind of skew these numbers also. So I cut it off to 25 years too. So since 2001, 2001, or 2001, 2000, the last 25 years, there have been 33 total NBA teams that have won 60 games or more. How many out of those 33 have won the title? Take a guess at that number. If it's pretty around the same, if it's less, if it's more.
I'm going to say it's around the same, 12.
Nine. So in the last 25 years of the 33 teams that have won 60 games or more, only nine have won the total, which, has the percentage come down to 27.2. Still pretty good, but I think it shows like the parity and the fact it's harder to kind of win 60 games at certain points. And if you're wondering why, then the last 50 years that number's a lot higher. Really, the 80s. I think the 80s birthed a lot, 1980s birthed a lot of mythos and generalizations we think of NBA basketball. Number one being the 60 win game mark. Nine out of the 10 years there, the teams that won 60 games or more ended up winning the NBA title. That's the only decade where it was like a consistent thing. So in the 80s, if you won 60 games, it's like 90% chance you were going to win the title. Anyway, every other decade is not like that. And the other one that skewed the data set is like in between when Jordan retired and the Warriors, because in between there it's kind of all over the place. The Spurs win a couple, even the 60 that time period too. The 60 win mark is kind of a curse. Not many teams in that time frame ended up doing it, so that's part of it too, if you want to know. But it's still a good chance. 60 wins again is very hard to do. But in the last 25 years, that you know has come down a little bit more and a little bit more. And I think the last two title teams, OKC and is it Boston the year before, won 60 games. So if you want to lean that way and be more positive, you could be like, hey, in recent history, that start to be a thing again. But I did want to put that out there because we should celebrate it. But I do want to give you the numbers on when this happens. Like, what are our actual chances? Yeah, if you go 50 years, 34.9% chance. That's normally what the rate was. But in the last 25 years, 27.2% chance. Have anything to say about 60 wins, Andy?
I mean, I'm happy we had such a good regular season. I think we talked about we would have preferred less wins for more development on some different areas and some different things that we thought might prepare us more for the playoffs, the moment we're at now. Because kind of like the Hawks team you brought up in the past, where it's like you can have a great regular season and get bounced early in the playoffs, and it's like what did that really mean? But the team did have a very good regular season, and that is something to be celebrated.
Yeah, absolutely. If you have any specific questions on 60 wins, again, I put down the seasons from 77 to 76, who the teams were and what they actually ended up doing in the playoffs. So in the comments, if you have any specific questions, I can answer those as well as too, if you want to look at like decade by decade and whatever, I can give you that breakdown if you want to, because it's interesting to look at. Well, I'll give this away too. There's going to be another stat I looked up from the past 50 years that honestly is not going to be a good stat that kind of dooms the Pistons. So do you want to give that now or do you want to end with it? I don't know if you want to end on the down note or just kind of give it here in the middle where it's like, all right, let's have
I,
it.
I want to hear it now.
In the last 50 years, the NBA Coach of the Year, how often has the NBA Coach of the Year who won it that season went on to win the NBA title in the last 50 years?
Uh, Twice.
You're close. Three. Who are those three coaches?
Oh, I'm just gonna say Popovich and Spoelstra
Spoelstra has never won Coach of the Year.
and that's why some awards are bogus. Um,
Amen to that.
um, who was the Nuggets coach that they fired? Um, Mike.
Mike Malone?
Yeah, did he?
Nope. You got it right with Pop.
Well, that's a gimme. Just say Pop for any coaching question, and normally you get that one. I don't have any other ones.
It's done. It's been done three times.
Missoula?
Popovich Popovich has done it twice. So technically, even though it's been done three times, there's only two guys that have done it. Popovich, who, if anybody out there is the moron that's like, oh, Pop isn't the greatest coach of all time, this should be the last nail in that coffin for anybody trying to make an argument. In 50 years of NBA history, there's only been three times that a coach has won Coach of the Year and went on to win the title. And this guy, Greg Popovich, did it twice. That's an anomaly of an anomaly, the most anomalous anomaly that's been out there, man. The other guy is Phil Jackson. Do you want to know what season he won it in? And he only won this award one time, which again is I hate Phil Jackson. I don't like him, but to say this guy who's won, what is it now? Was it nine NBA titles that he's won Coach of the Year one time? Just throw that award in the trash, right?
What season was it?
Take a guess. Think
Oh,
of all the Bulls season. Think of all the Lakers seasons.
oh, I'll pick like his third title with the Bulls.
No, it was the sixth one. Him winning five titles and winning 72 games and only losing 10 for them to finally give him the award. Honestly, if you look at like the award winners before that Phil Jackson one, it's kind of like, guys, what are you doing? Like Pat Riley won it once, but he only won it for when he was on the Knicks, which I know he was on the Knicks, but I'm also like, I totally forgot that that was even a thing. And then I'm like, he won it. Um, Other guys that are pretty good, though, like Nelly, Don Nelson. You think Don Nelson won it twice? Shout out Nelly, one of the greatest coaches to never win it. But this is an absolute curse of an award for your title chances. Again, you have to be Phil freaking Jackson, who's already won five titles at that point, or Greg Popovich, again, the most anomalous anomaly in order to win it. Even the guys that did end up eventually winning, like Mike Budenholzer, I forget, there are a couple other coaches on there who won a title, Doc Rivers, but they won Coach of the Year in the year where they didn't win the title. So think about it in those terms too. Is like, yeah, I get that this award is kind of a joke, and the pushback is like, well, it's a lot of these guys did win titles. It's like, yeah, but they won the award in the year they didn't win the title. So it's weird. Um, my argument, if I found this out before the playoffs, would have been like, give that award to Joe Mazzulla, please, please, because it's just been the kiss of death in terms of your title chances, man.
Oh, that was good, man. I'm glad you looked that up. That is interesting.
It's also
Maybe.
why there's been so many coaches of the year in recent history, like Dwayne Casey being one of them, right? Who immediately get fired after they win that award. It's because they have these high expectations. They get this accolade and then they poop their pants in the playoffs. It's like, okay, you're clearly not what we wanted from you, right? Um, and yeah, I tried really hard not to throw that dig at JB too of like you're the reigning coach of the year, man, and this is what you're putting together. But I mean, it's hard not to say that. The more they struggle, and the more there's going to be these weird things that are a direct result of his rotations or not calling plays for Jalen Duren and stuff like that. Then the national media is going to swoop down on that like rats on a dead carcass.
And I mean, I guess in some ways you can look at it as maybe some of the coaches built the team to winning to get the coach of the year, but they weren't the coach that could get it done in the playoffs to win them the title and make the adjustments and do those things, which
Yeah,
might be the role that JB is actually sitting in, which we kind of talked about when he got hired, that it's like, well, if he can make the team make this next step forward, that's great. He fulfilled his job, but we don't think he's, and I'd love to be proven wrong, but just don't think he's that guy in the playoffs to be that coach.
you mean he's not Phil Jackson and Greg Popovich?
I'm gonna say he's not quite there yet.
Yeah, and again, no disrespect to JB. Look at up and down that line. If anything, it tells you this isn't the year for the Pistons to win the title. It's probably going to be another year. It's really hard for that trend not to continue. Shout out to Scott in the Slack chat. He's called the Coach of the Year award the "Oh, we didn't think you were going to be this good" award, which I'm like, yeah, I kind of think that is what that award ends up being. Because when you look at a lot of the guys that won it, they overachieved or they really exceeded expectations, which is like, yeah, I understand the spirit of the award should be something like that. But again, when Phil Jackson wins 9 titles and you only gave it to him once, it's like, what are you doing, guys? And you only gave it to him after he had the best, regular season that anybody's ever had. Again, I don't understand. It's one of those. I think that and Defensive Player of the Year and Most Improved Player are kind of these awards where you look back at some of the things that happened and you're like, what were you doing?
Well, I mean, even sometimes with the MVP, it's like, well, we don't want to keep giving it to the same guy. We got to give it to someone different. And then sometimes you look at someone's best statistical season and they're like, oh, yeah, they didn't win it that year, but they won it the year before and the year after. But the one that was probably their best statistical career, they didn't win it that year just because the media was kind of tired of them and wanted to give someone else some shine.
Yeah, then a defensive player of the year like that too. Like, Draymond, you're like, oh, he only won one, and like Bam's never won one. LeBron never won defensive player of the year, which is absolutely stupid. Yeah, it's some weird stuff, man. And then again, with like LeBron level player, it's like, well, we can't give him every award. It's like, well, why not when he's that good? Like Wembanyama is going to be like that. If they don't give him every possible award that he can win, like what's the point, right? Just throw them in the trash. Back to the Pistons, though. I did want to talk about specific players and try to identify some things that are going to determine the 2026 playoff experience for the Detroit Pistons. Number one, let's start with the most important on-court factor, Andy. This could be anything from like shooting to like defensive intensity. What do you think is the most important on-court factor for the Detroit Pistons?
For me, it's going to be three-point shooting, but not so much what people think in terms of like they had enough volume and a good enough percentage, but I'm just talking about a bad, bad, bad game. Like when they shoot a percentage where it's like, oh, they shot 20%. Like we had like a 3 or 4 game stretch in the regular season where they shot like 20% for a few games in a row and they had some losses. It's like that for me, that would be something. And I mean, if you want to be even more boring, which is scary, you brought up the free throw shooting very early on, where it's like in the playoffs, that's going to cost this team if they can't shoot their free throws, which, depending on how our offense is flowing, we can't afford to give up any points. We got to take advantage of the freebies.
Do you have an idea what the 3-point shooting numbers and free throw percentage was like in game one? To give it an idea.
3-point percentage, I'd say they shot like 33%. I think it was pretty average.
So the free throw percentage or the 3-point percentage, excuse me, was 31.3%. And the free throw percentage, what do you think it was?
Oh, free throw percentage, I will say, let's go with 70%.
76.3%. Really, really, really helped out by Cade's 10 of 11 and Tobias's 6 of 7, which is like over half of the 3-point or the free throw production there. If anybody goes to the line, again, it's Cade and Tobias. Those are the guys you want to go to the line for sure.
And honestly, if you look at those shooting numbers, that's a game we should probably win.
Yeah. I mean, I'm going to be more specific than that. The easy ones are going to be like, 3-point percentage, right? Jalen Duren's like consistent defensive effort, things like that. Who's the second guy to step up? There has to be a second guy to step up for Cade every night. Again, those are pretty easy ones to identify. But I think specifically what is going to make or break this Pistons playoff experience is Cade's off the dribble three-pointers. Because I think that's the thing that's going to really, and you saw it in game one. He struggled a little bit, but he ended up being 3 of 8 from three. And the two off the dribble that I remember Cade hitting, it makes Orlando and anybody that plays this team have to defend him differently. Because think about Cade Cunningham. What's his number one thing that everybody knows he will do no matter what?
Well, he's got that pick and roll. He's going to get to his mid range. He's going to knock down the mid range. He's going to throw the lob, but everything is going toward the basket.
Yep.
So
The
if
number one thing is he is going to get to the basket. He's going to score. It's not a matter of if, it's a matter of when and how much, right? So that's the thing. And Orlando was defending him a lot like that, especially in the first half of just like cut off the rim, cut off the rim, cut off access to Duran, which they did a fantastic job also. Um, but once he started hitting those off the dribble threes, then it was when things became a problem because they're like, we got to get more in his face. We kind of got to blitz him. It really changes how you have to defend the entire team now to commit either somebody that can mess up that rhythm off the dribble, but more likely it is when you do your switches, like both guys kind of got to blitz Cade to not let him get in a rhythm. And if Cade can do that more consistently, and this is something I'll pull in the offseason because I think the off the dribble three, if Cade can get to like a Kyrie type of level, which I know how bonkers that sounds, but Cade Cunningham is a great player, top 10, maybe even top five guy in the world. He has that ability to be able to do that. If he can get that off the dribble game from three in particular to be consistently like 40, 42%, it makes him unguardable and it really makes his game unpredictable because he's already unpredictable once he gets inside the arc. You have no idea what he's going to do. It's why it makes him so difficult. You're like, once he gets past the 3-point arc, it's like, okay, is he going to go to the post? Is he going to go to his mid range? Is he going to turn off of which shoulder? Is he just going to drive to the rim? And the fact that he plays at a methodical pace is what makes him so unpredictable and so unguardable inside the 2-point arc. But so far, he's been pretty predictable from three. It's like, yeah, he'll probably come off a little DHO and try and get a 3-point shot off, right? It seems like the off the dribble three, it's not necessarily like his last thing he goes to, but it's definitely not up there in terms of his shot hierarchy. So I think that's the main thing for me when I'm looking at these games is like, yeah, if he can get that going, his off the dribble three game, again, it makes the court wide open for Cade and it will give his teammates so many more open opportunities.
and if I remember correctly, last year when we lost to the Knicks, it was a close series, and his 3-point shooting was not good in
Oh
that.
yeah, it was brutal. It was like 20 something percent.
And just
And
the
then
way,
Beasley also decided to get cold at that time too, which sucked.
yeah, and with the way that the Magic, it appears how they're going to be defending everything, he's going to have those shots, so he needs to take them.
He should really be a little bit more aggressive when Suggs is guarding him. Suggs is clearly at the I don't care point either. Again, he's definitely if Jamal Mosley is the coach of the cornered rat having to chew its way out, Suggs is the embodiment of that as a player. He clearly is like, I don't care. I'll foul out, whatever. But in order for us to win, I got to play as aggressively as possible and leave it in the ref's hands. And that's something the Pistons should, and specifically Cade in particular, should play into. Of like, all right, man, let's go. After the important on-court factor, who's the most important Piston? And this is obviously not a Cade Cunningham thing because again, Cade dropped 39 in game one. We knew he was going to do that stuff. That's what everybody expects. Everybody knows Cade is going to do fantastic. It becomes about everybody else. There has to be somebody else that does something. So who's the most important Piston player for this 2026 playoffs in your mind, Andy?
If I can only pick one, it would be
Yeah, don't flip-flop.
it would be so here's where I want to hedge. I would say Duncan Robinson and his 3-point shooting for me. However, if Jalen Duren is going to play like he played in game one, it doesn't matter how many threes Duncan shoots because Duren can't put up those numbers and the team is going to win games. But for me, it's because it's not so much just for me, it is Duncan Robinson's 3-point shooting because I just feel like when he's knocking down threes, the team just plays differently.
Yeah, absolutely. Although I forget who I heard this stat from, so apologies. I don't remember who I first heard it from. I want to say it was the Sports Illustrated guys, or maybe Bill Simmons and Zach Lowe. Again, I'll try and track this down and say it for next time. There's a definitive answer to this that like nobody should be arguing for. There are only two Pistons this last season who scored more than half of their offense on unassisted shots. That means that they created their own offense on more than 50% of their offense. So, who are the only two Pistons this last season who scored more than 50% of their points on unassisted shots?
Not including Cade.
I said Pistons.
Okay, so I would say Cade and Tobias.
Kate is one of them, who's Tobias is not number two.
Oh, I I can't believe it's Duren because of just how many assists he gets. Is it
Yeah,
Duren?
it's not Duran.
Okay.
File that
Um,
under reason number 4008. He should not get a max, by the way.
um, is it Duncan Robinson?
It's not Duncan Robinson.
Okay, because he puts up his threes off of assists. Um, Asar Thompson?
It's not Asar Thompson.
Who else scores out our team?
Again,
Dan
this is worrisome.
Dennis Jenkins?
It's Dennis Jenkins. Dennis Jenkins and Cade Cunningham were the only two Pistons this last season who scored, who 50% of their offense or greater was unassisted shots. So
Well,
the answer to who the most important Piston is Dennis Jenkins because he's the only other shot creator out there.
I I don't like this word, but oh shit. Oh man.
So if you're wondering why JB is so reliant on Dennis, it's because of that. There's nobody else out here that consistently creates their own shot while also being able to consistently set up other dudes. Why is that worrisome? Again, this is no shade at Dennis, but there are some limitations, and there's also something that's a result of JB's lineups that is why it's also worrisome. Do you have any idea why it's worrisome, Andy?
Um, well, for me, it's worrisome because if you're going to play Dennis with Cade, who are you taking off the floor? And what we saw like in game one is that meant they were taking Asar Thompson off the floor, or they did bring Dennis in sometimes when Duncan Robinson was in foul trouble. But yeah,
Yeah. I mean, it's also worrisome because he's 6'4", 165, guarding 6'11", Franz, 6'10", Paulo. Again, I am sorry, Dennis. We love you. We know if anybody can buck the trend of small guards, it's you. But I'm not gonna lie to you. Watching him guard Franz in game one, I just had this terrible feeling in my stomach, and nothing good happened every time he was out there guarding these big dudes. It's like, oh man, it's not good. It's not a good defensive matchup. Number one, I mean, we gave the six on shots 6 feet in, and Dennis gave up like 60% or greater on shots, so they're gonna attack him. Well, number two is JB's lineups. Let's rather than having you guess, let's just take a look at the lineups. This is from cleaningtheglass.com. This is Dennis's lineups. So this last season, the number one lineup that Dennis was in had Dennis in place of Cade. So it was Dennis, Asar Thompson, Duncan Robinson, Tobias Harris, Jalen Duren. That ended up being actually the second most used lineup for the Detroit Pistons all season. It only had 376 possessions. So that's the number one worrisome part is like, oof, when Dennis did his best work, Cade Cunningham was not there. Look at these lineups here, Andy. Where do you see Dennis playing with Cade Cunningham? You're muted.
Is that the fifth one down?
Oh, let's see. One, two, three, four, five. It's not until Dennis's fifth most used lineup do we get Cade Cunningham and Dennis Jenkins on the court together. And that lineup has 59 total possessions. That's like a half of a game. This is the more worrisome part of it to me. Can Cade and Dennis play together? Sure, absolutely. With the way Dennis can space the floor, and we've seen he can do off-ball stuff, but they haven't even had a half of a game. I mean, they barely had half of a game to actually work out what that lineup looks like. And any Piston fan out there, think about it. Go back at the games and look. When were Cade and Dennis on the floor together during the regular season to have this as a viable lineup for the team? Doing that now in the playoffs, can it be done? Sure, it's possible, but it's not probable.
Well, this goes back to something we've talked about before, where it's like using the regular season, because the Pistons had a great record. We knew where they were going to be, but it's like using the regular season to prepare for the playoffs. Yet it seemed like JB was playing a lot of weird random lineups, which I don't think he was doing it like to prepare for the playoffs. He liked to get everybody minutes and they've earned their playing time, like he likes to say. But it's like we played all these games to get the number one seed, and then in the first game of the playoffs, you're playing a lineup that's only played how many minutes together? Like that doesn't make any sense. Doesn't make sense at all.
In the fourth quarter, it was somewhere between the 7 minute mark and like the 5 minute mark. Do you remember the lineup he had out there in crunch time when they're pulling closer and for needing to win this game in the fourth quarter? Do you remember what that was?
Was that the lineup that he had Cade, Dennis, Herter, Tobias, and Duran?
Yep. Was that ever a lineup?
I don't think that I'm not sure if they've ever played together.
No, actually, I have that pulled up now. Let me look. Herder, let's see. Um, Jenkins and Levert and Herder. Nope, there we go. Herder, Thompson. Nope. Yeah, I mean, I would have to look into this for quite a while, especially the Cade. The Cade and Dennis shared so much time on the court together, but then to put him with the rest of uh, the front court starters and then throw Kevin Herter, the guy that like barely got here, it's just like again, what coach does that? Never done this lineup before. If you have, you've done it maybe like once or twice, and it's in crunch time under 10 minutes to go in the fourth quarter where you need to score points and you're like, all right, let's try this out.
It
And the whole point of doing it is because again, like I'm saying, Dennis is the second most important Piston in terms of the hierarchy, but he is the most important Piston for determining what this team is going to do because JB's like, I need him out here when we need to score points. I don't care who else is out here in this lineup. He has to be out here.
and the problem with his thinking like this, if that is his thinking, maybe you score better. And honestly, if we look at the numbers, my guess is it's not going to be a better scoring lineup. But let's in his mind, let's say it is. Are you going to be able to defend on the other side of the court against the team you're playing? That's going to be the struggle, and because of the size, especially against a
What do you
team
mean Dennis
as
and Herter equal Sar Thompson?
yeah, that it just doesn't make sense, man.
So Dennis Dinkins again, and I might have lessened the criticism on JB if the first sub in that game one was Dennis instead of Herter. That would have made sense to me. Again, the guy that actually creates shots on his own and the guy that actually shot well from three. It's like, okay, that makes sense. But to have Herter be the first guy coming is just like, what are you doing, man?
Well, and I think I said this before we started recording, but it's like if you're going to lose Robinson's 3-point shooting and you're going to bring someone else in, Herter's not the guy. I'm sorry, I don't care he's done for his career. The last couple of seasons, it didn't change. The time with the Pistons, it didn't change. and you really want to roll the dice and be like, it's going to happen now in game one of the playoffs, that's just poor thinking. It doesn't make sense.
Well, you know what really doesn't make sense is the center position on this team. Not this isn't a slight at anybody. This is just me pulling data. Again, when I was looking at matchups, Charlotte was obviously the one that we wanted because really after the like them trying to get Stu in trouble and fight, they were not going to be a problem because of the center position. Like, can you name their centers, Andy?
Just because he got in a fight, that's the only way. Otherwise, I wouldn't know. I wouldn't know who their centers are.
Exactly. No slight to Musa Diabate and Ryan Kalkbrenner. I mean, but these are guys that aren't even scoring in the double digits. And even though they might be solid on defense, the whole thing of Ross's argument from the Rock Never Stop shutout is that Jalen Duren is good enough to take advantage of guys like this who, while they might be good on one end, give you nothing on the other side. And that would have been the ideal matchup because number one, the Pistons just want to attack the middle. Are do Diabate and Kalkbrenner good enough to stop a Cade Cunningham-led offense for 7 games? No, absolutely not. And then do they do enough on offense to have a counterpunch to that? Of course not. Are you kidding me? They barely do anything. So that was the why it was the ideal matchup. And when I started diving into our center data, I found some weird stuff that I think is going to impact the playoffs. And really, I just want to kind of put this out there because when we end up doing the end of the season review, I am continually doing research on off numbers and what they mean, what the benefits and drawbacks and where a blind spot for them might be, because it's not indicative of telling you exactly the impact of the player, even though the idea behind on off is when we pull you from the court, does the team improve on offense or defense? And when you're on the court, what does the difference look like? I started with Jalen Duren, and I mentioned this in the last 2 episodes, I think, where I'm like, I'm not going to use these on off numbers because look at this 59th percentile for Duren on defense in points per 100 possession, and then 34th in effective field goal percentage. Improvements from last year, still not good. Um, so I'm like, okay, sure. He must have those numbers. They're still bad, even with the improvements. I'm like, he must have those numbers because why, Andy? You're muted again.
Okay, I'm sorry. Say that again.
So on-off numbers are supposed to measure when you're pulled, like if you're like this with Duren where your defense is bad. What's the reason normally that an on-off number for Jalen Duren would be bad on defense?
Because that his numbers would be bad on defense because of
Yes.
like you mean when the players around him are good defensively and they're like
No, no, no.
supporting his
On-off
numbers?
numbers. Who is Duren or who's Duren being pulled for? Who's he being pulled off the court and who's being
Oh,
put on the court?
for Isaiah Stewart. Isaiah Stewart
Yeah,
is a
so normally
defensive
it's
monster.
right. Yeah. Well, let's look at Stu's defensive numbers. Look at this. It says Stewart is in the 13th percentile for points per 100 possession and the 50th in effective field goal percentage. I think anybody with eyeballs would be able to tell you that's ridiculous. Top three. I haven't looked at the numbers. He might still be the number one rim protector in the NBA, but definitely top three rim protector in the NBA. He's definitely not giving up so many shots everywhere else that he should be in the bottom of the barrel in points per 100 possession on defense. And there's absolutely no way he should be that low in effective field goal percentage. Um, and I thought maybe it's the injury. And who's the other big we have here that it's like, oh, maybe because he had to
B-ball
play so
Paul.
much. Yeah, B-ball Paul, maybe because he had to play so much, this kind of ends up being something that throws a monkey wrench in it. Well, let's look at B-ball Paul's on-off numbers, and he's in the 74th percentile in points per 100 possession and 53rd in effective field goal percentage. So apparently, Andy, the Pistons have no good defensive centers.
Huh. That's that's strange.
Yeah. So something that's why I pulled this for a playoff. Something's going weirdly funky with whatever JB is doing at the center position. Again, I will have to research this more because normally on-off numbers are pretty straightforward of like, and especially with Duran and Stu, like it's been shown. I'll go give you the Stu ones from last year. Last year, terrible on offense, right? 18th in points per 100 possession, 23rd percentile in effective field goal percentage. Like, yeah, that tracks. But then 73rd percentile points per 100 possession, 98th percentile in effective field goal percentage on defense. Again, you're like, okay, that tracks because he's really limited on offense, Isaiah Stewart. But man, does he sure eliminate, make everybody really inefficient on defense. And then Duran's the flip side of that from last year, right? 81st percentile points per 100 possession on offense, 89th in effective field goal percentage. He just helps K get those lobs. He gets the percentages up because he's such a high efficiency finisher. And then on defense, again, 20th percentile in points per 100 possession, second in effective field goal percentage. Generous reading is like he's not that bad on defense, but because Isaiah Stewart is so good, it really makes Duran's defensive numbers look terrible. So again, I think the center position is really the thing that we ought to hyper focus on in the playoffs because there's something happening with whatever they're doing on defense that it makes even Paul Reed look kind of average. And Duran is like pretty good on one side with the points, but then bad with the percentages. And then Stu is like average with the percentages, but is apparently terrible with the points. Very the people much smarter than me. I don't have an answer to this right now. I'm going to try to find one. I don't know that I'll necessarily have an answer for it, but it's bizarre. I don't know if you have any theory or anything about this. And what's more bizarre than this is a lot of this lineup data from cleaning the glass suggests nobody on this Piston team is good on defense. Our defensive player of the year candidate, right? Let's take a look at what his on-off numbers defensively should be. And it says that our Asar Thompson is in the 63rd percentile in points per 100 on defense and the 38th in effective field goal percentage. Again, it must have something to do with what our guy JB Bickerstaff is doing for when pulling guys, putting them back on the court, that makes these numbers suggest nobody on this team is good on defense. Even the reigning, number two, number three guy in terms of defensive player that you're voting.
What are can you pull up like Wembanyama's numbers?
The defensive player of the year, if he doesn't get it, again, it's like 99th in points per 100 possession on defense, 97th in effective field goal percentage. If you're not watching this on YouTube, by the way, Wembanyama's been in the 95th percentile or better since his rookie year in points per 100 possession on defense. If anybody should beat the record of, like defensive player of the year, it's him. Like I thought he should have gotten it as a rookie. I thought he should have gotten it last year, even though he barely played. Like he's just an absolute alien, right? And you want to look at Chet's too, because Chet's
Yeah,
the other guy.
yeah. Pull up chat.
And Chet is 96th percentile on defense and points per 100 possession and 89th percentile in effective field goal percentage.
Huh. I thought maybe something was different about how they were tracking
Oh,
it or something. And
again, I think it has to do with whatever JB is doing with these rotations, and the fluctuating. I don't even know what to call it. It's really got me stumped. And this is the first year where I pulled on off numbers that didn't make any sense. And Cade's doesn't don't make sense at all. I don't know if you want to look at those because it's both on offense and defense. They are all over the place. I don't get it. You're muted again.
that, that's that that's weird.
Yeah. Again, this is unfounded. I don't have any evidence for this. My gut is just telling me it probably has to do with the way JB is so hyper fixated on the starters, and then every other lineup has been kind of whatever. So, I mean, I can just pull the lineup data right now too from Basketball Reference, just so we have some kind of idea. And think about how this can impact the playoffs. Now, if the regular season data you're pulling says like, oof, these guys aren't that great, but somehow they've won 60 games, and we know this is ridiculous to say they're not that great. They are a really, really good team and again, Asar Thompson, Defensive Player of the Year candidate. Beef Stew, really good rim protector. Even Duran with his improvements is like it's not this bad. And why is everybody's bad?
No, why aren't the Pistons ranked like the second best team defensively?
Yeah. All right, so last thing here. Well, I hit the wrong button. Apparently, I don't know how to use the computer anymore.
Well, I don't know how to use the mute button.
So here's the lineup data from Basketball Reference to show us our most used lineups from the Pistons. Number one lineup, obviously starters, Cade, Duncan, Asar, Tobias, Stern, 535 minutes in total together. Second most used lineup, like I said, it's Dennis Jenkins in place of Cade, 184 minutes. Everything else after that is under 100 minutes. The third most used lineup, which to me, the third most used lineup, I'm like, this seems to be a lie. Like Basketball Reference, Cleaning the Glass, you're lying to me because they both say the third most used lineup was Cade Cunningham, Asar Thompson, Duncan Robinson, and then Stu and Duran together. I'm like, really? And Piston fans out there again think, how often did we see Stu and Duran on the court together? I can't think of a single impactful moment where they played together, where it meant something, where you thought they were going to do something. So it's two pronged. It's like, okay, that shows you that the third most used lineup like didn't really get any time, and anything below that, forget it. Like it was almost non-existent then.
So the area that I would say the third most used lineup got there based on like consistency in terms of Tobias going out for Stu only for a couple minutes before Duran goes to the bench and then Stu takes over the center position. Like that was something that JB did consistently. And then all the other lineups are going to be changed based on the fact that Ivy was in them and then got traded and was gone. So it's going to reduce the number of lineups that we have. Does that make sense? Like we
I
have,
only played 58 games. That's where I come back to. I'm like, this guy almost missed 30 games and he's in the third most used lineup. Like, oh boy, man.
yeah, it's yeah, but for me the idea that because I think and I'll look into it, but I think that you'll find like Ivy start popping up and because he's gone, I think that's going to be one of the things that takes away from what should have been lineups that would have had more continuity, but also at the same time, I mean, almost for an entire season, JB's played 10 and 11 man rotations, so it's going to be hard to get a lot of minutes for a few lineups.
Yeah, and if you're still out there wondering why am I talking about lineup data, how's this impacting the playoffs? Is because they don't have a second most used lineup. That's why you see the Dennis, Cade, Herter, Tobias, and Duran lineup in the fourth quarter of a game that you need to win. When we've probably never seen that lineup before, that's what's happening in this playoffs, and it's going to continue to happen because JB never set like, okay, what do we do in this situation? It's just been a season of constant like, let's do this, let's do that. Oh, Dennis is here, Cade's not here, let's play him, and everything after that was like, all right, let's just try this out, and they never really set on anything after that.
And I wonder if we look back at the losses that the Pistons had this year. I mean, I bet a number of them, and I mean this would go for many teams, but if our starting lineup doesn't do well, there's like no chance in winning the game because that's like the only
I think
lineup we
I think that's generally for anybody though, right?
yeah, but I mean I guess what I'm saying is it's like that's the only lineup that we have like consistency with. You know what I mean? That's like
Yeah.
everything else is like, well, am I going to use Levert today or am I going to use Herter? Am I gonna bring in Sasser today? Like there's just it's so random.
Yeah, I mean, look at this. JB's boy, Kevin Herter, his most used lineup is the 11th lineup, and it only had 33 minutes and 12 seconds of total game action this entire season. Like, man, even the guy that you think you should be relying on and do you want to bring him as your first sub, like, you didn't even get him in a stable lineup, man. It's just like, bro,
Yeah, I mean, for me, that doesn't make any sense for the playoffs. Like,
yeah.
I don't understand how you how you go there. That's just bizarre.
So again, basketball reference, are you lying to me? You're telling me Sasser was in one of the most used lineups on this Piston team? Bizarre, bizarre. Keep in mind the lineups. we'll come back to the on-off numbers. Hopefully, I'll have more of an actual answer in the off season. But yeah, it's bizarre and why this playoffs for me is worrisome is pulling all this stuff is just like, man, there's just way more questions than I thought there would have been for a 60 win team.
That's a very good point. I mean, and I think, and not to agree with the media who wants to say that the Pistons and their number one seed and their 60 wins are fraudulent. Because I'm sorry, you don't win 60 games fraudulent. That's not. But I will agree with what you're saying that for a 60 win team, should you have this many questions and win like 60 games? Like that, I mean, to me, that really tells you how good Cade is. Like Cade has had a really, really good season for this team. And Duran has stepped up at times during the season. Like they've had people step up to fill roles, but yeah, to have 60 wins and to have this many questions is surprising.
Yeah, for sure. And for somebody who doesn't like Durant too, I'm like, I don't even think it's his fault at this point. Like, if this continues down, like, sure, as a player, you should be demonstrative and demand the ball more and stuff. But clearly, when the schematic stuff is going elsewhere, and the whole thing of like Dennis needing to be the only other shot creator out there and stuff, it's just like there's so much he can do. Obviously, I'm going to complain about his defense and stuff, but it's just not putting the guys in the best position to win. So it's just bizarre. And to go back to the coach of the year thing too, it's why guys like Spoelstra never win it because you want to know how many. This is another reason why I was going to say the Heat or the matchup we didn't want. The years that they went to the finals without the Heatles, with the Jimmy Butler teams. Do you want to know how many games those teams won those years they went to the finals?
50, 52.
44. Both years they only won 44 games. They went to the finals. It's why Spo's maybe never going to win Coach of the Year is because it's in the years where he's like, oh, he underachieved whenever they go to the finals. In the years where he's expected to go to the finals, they underachieve. So it's just been, this up and down thing. And who knows? Maybe this is like the Dallas Mavericks team where they lost in round one to the We Believe Warriors, right? There have been teams throughout the years who took a lot of lumps in the playoffs. The Sixers with Dr. J, like they just kept coming up short again and again until eventually they had that one year where they just obliterated everybody and nobody could stop them. They were one of those 60-win teams in the 80s that won the title. There have been teams like that over the years. Is this team going to be one that is able to bounce back and learn from it if they do falter like that? Or is this just a blip on the radar here? Again, I'm worried because I'm like all this lineup data stuff, the fact that Dennis is such an integral part of this run to create offense, and then JB's reliance on like Herder over all the other subs in this first game. I don't have a good feeling.
So it like oftentimes people will say regular season basketball and playoff basketball are two different things. And you can look at coaching and be like, yes, a coach can rack up a bunch of regular season wins and get his team ready to play regular season games. But
Oh, sorry, excuse me.
can you look at someone like Spoelstra, who you just showed took 44 win teams to the finals? Like that
Twice.
is that is a coach who can say, okay, we have this opponent for 7 games. What are their strengths and weaknesses? What are our strengths and weaknesses? How do we adjust to make these games go in our favor? Which is, in some ways, a different skill set than just getting your team ready to play 82 regular season basketball games. It's like, can you make the adjustments you need to make now in order to capitalize on this situation?
Yeah, and the regular season, the best teams, this is the one thing I think in the last, I don't know, what, 10, 15 years, the best teams that have ended up going to win the title treat the regular season like preparation for the playoffs. Think of the Bucks team with Giannis, where they were so hyper fixated on winning like 55, 60 games. And then when they faltered, it's like, oh, we need to treat this as like what's going to help us build sustainable success in the playoffs. And then they didn't care what they won. They just cared that they built that. And the Celtics were that way too. they kept falling short and short and short, right? And then when Missoula came in here, implemented an actual system, and they wanted, and they were good, but they were like, we don't really care what our record is. Even this year, right? Missoula refused to let them be bad and built something that's sustainable to where it's just going to be good in the playoffs. Can we do it without Tatum? And then once Tatum comes back, how do we implement him back into what we've already been doing all season that helped us to win the titles? So like the Heatles, another one too, like they faltered in that first finals, right? And after a while, they also treated it like let's rest the guys, make sure we're right for the playoffs. And the Spurs might be the guys that did this first of like we don't really care. We know we got to get in and play the matchups and come up with game plans and a rotation that's set that once it's in the playoffs, it's going to keep us sustained to make it all the way to the finals and win it.
And we brought up this flag very early on, where it's like we would rather lose some close games because we had Asar on the court trying to figure out how to close games with him than win those close games with him on the bench.
Yeah.
Because eventually, when you get into the playoffs and you just need to play your best players, you want him to be out on the floor. And for him to only get 9 minutes in the second half, it's like, no, that's that's not for this team, that's not winning basketball. You can't tell me we're going to keep him playing those because who's going to be guarding Franz? Who's going to be guarding Bane? Like,
Dennis, come on, Dennis, you saw it, right?
so it's like so we'll see what changes in game two, or if we're like, whoa, tighten up your seatbelt because this is how we're going down with the ship.
Yeah, and I want to echo the sentiments of like Ross, The Rock Never Stops. Why is Paul Reed not seeing time in this series? Well, right? What's the reason normally they don't play a Paul Reed in most games or most series in the playoffs? What would the reason be?
So I'm not going to answer that question just for a second about the Paul Reed because for me it's like if you want to shoot down Paul Reed and be like, well, he's a third string center, which I think he's better than a third center. But even if you want to make that argument, why wouldn't Isaiah Stewart get more minutes in this? Like, there's absolutely no reason why Stewart wouldn't be playing more minutes.
Yeah, speaking of a guy that JB doesn't want to play 20 minutes or more.
Yeah, it, so those that's and so because again, if you're going to play b-ball Paul, you're adding another body into the rotation where it's like if you are shortening your rotation, then you know what, Stu should be getting more minutes, especially if we're looking for another body to try and D up against, Paulo and so I again, it's just like what are we doing here?
Yeah, and in this series, why I say B-ball Paul needs to play. Again, the Magic aren't shooting the lights out every night. The reason why most times you say, oh, you can't play Paul Reed is because of the spacing stuff. Like you play Stu, Duran, and B-ball Paul, you're like, I don't know if you're having enough spacing out there. It doesn't matter in this series anyway. And like you just said, big body dudes, Franz and Paulo. Yeah, B-ball Paul is going to get in there and be another body to get in the way also. So, I mean, Ross has brought up a lot of the like JB needs offense, and that's why like Herter and Dennis are in there. But I think a lot of us are like, so now is the time you go back on the identity of the team, or don't even care what the identity of the team is. The identity of the team is not Dennis Dinkins and Kevin Herter. No offense to those guys. The identity of the team is defense. That's what got you here, right?
I,
To
I
give up on it
agree.
now makes no sense.
I agree with that 100% because if you're going to tell me you want to lean into offense, well, you should have made a move at the trade deadline because Kevin Herter was not the offensive weapon we were looking for at the deadline if that's what you were going to be doing. It's like this team got here on defense, like you're saying, to change that now.
Maybe they
That
just really don't like Dario Saric and wanted to cut him.
to go against that now is basically erasing the 60 wins that you got in the regular season and saying, you know what, we're going to experiment with this thing now, which is completely absurd. You should follow the recipe that got you 60 wins and not be changing what got you there at this moment.
Yeah, you still not worried, Andy? Still not worried
Nope.
for the Magic against the
I,
Magic?
I'm I'm not. I have that much faith in Cade Cunningham.
Yeah, I'm definitely worried. Kate Cunningham ain't putting the lineups together, man. That's all I'll say. So yeah, thank you so much for listening to us. And tell us what you think is gonna happen in this Pistons series, man. Game one is a bit weird. I'll try and get this out before tomorrow, the 22nd, before the team plays. So I don't know when we'll record again. It might be before the series ends, but we shall see. Andy, let everybody know where they can find you before we get out of here.
You can find me on Twitter at D_D_Pistons_fan. And just talking about some of the people commenting on Twitter and talking about like JB and his rotations and the minutes and all that stuff. That's why I stopped tracking that stuff months ago because it didn't make sense then. It didn't make sense in game one of the playoffs. So we'll see what happens in game two, but we'll see.
Go Pistons, man. Go Pistons. Yeah, thank you so much for listening to us. We will catch you next time. Go